All of the SysInternals suite utilities can be downloaded free of charge from the internet. And if you just do a Google search for SysInternals suite, you can get here. And just follow the link to SysInternals suite. Oh, here's the SysInternals download right here. And you just download a big zip file, and I just unzip it to a folder. Okay, so I've already done that in advance. So let me go ahead and run one. This is the first time I've run this one, and it comes up with this copyright notice. So it only happens once, and that's all you have to worry about. So let's start with access check. This access check, this will check the rights and permissions of certain resources. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to say -A, and that will tell it to look at certain users, and the star will say look at all users. Of course, I'm the only one logged onto this box right now. So it's going to show me everything I have rights and privileges for, including services and files and paths and so forth. So this is actually a very, very useful utility when you're gathering data, especially for like a live investigation. Okay, access enum is a bit more comprehensive. Okay, and what it's going to do, see, I've got specified C windows here. Once you hit scan here, it's going to go through the entire folder and subfolders and tell you what you have access to in that space. And it actually takes a while, especially for Windows and all of its subfolders, because there's so much there. And as you can see, it tells you what you have read permission for and write permission for and deny, what's denied. So here, there is one thing that's denied, Windows Debug. Okay. And this is going to take a while. There are a number of options you can actually explore. Unfortunately, you can't save this. Unfortunately, you can't actually save this to a disk file for later reference. I'm going to quit that now because it's going to take a while longer. Okay. Auto logon is going to give you the opportunity to log on to a system automatically. So you just give the username, the domain, and then you have to type in the password. And there is a security risk to this because potentially someone could examine your registry. The password that you put here is going to be contained in your registry. So by actually examining the registry, someone could see your password. So this is nice if you need convenience and so forth. But as a general rule, you're not going to do this. And you can actually talk about the programs that auto run. And for a forensic investigation, this is going to be really important because a lot of applications auto run at startup, and it's really important that you know what these are because some of them might be some sort of malware or spyware or something, or a logic bomb of some sort that the user has installed to kind of thwart your investigation. So this is really good. You can see quite a bit of information and where they are. Now these actually come from the registry, so what it's doing is scanning the registry and obtaining all of these. And if you want, you can go to the image path and actually see what they are. Most of them are going to be fine, but here again, you just have to use your judgment. And you can actually save this to a file. And this is really nice because then you can take it back to the lab and examine it later. So the next three utilities, in one way or another, have to do with disk files or disk directories or disk usage. So they're very useful because they're going to help you identify sort of where stuff is or maybe how it's aggregated. So let's take a look at disk ext. All this is going to tell you is how your logical disks are mapped. Now I have quite a few external hard drives, and so as you can see, F, E, L, maybe an extreme number of external hard drives. You can also just say like one of them that you want. Okay, so if I say H, it'll just give me that one. So you don't have to do them all. And I think that there are other options too that you can take a look at. So you can say no banner, gives you a shorter footprint. You can also save this to a file just like we do with the command line utilities. So we can say disk ext, type it to O, disk ext.txt, O, notepad de.txt. Oops. So then you can take this back to the lab for further examination. Okay, so same idea. So disk view is different. It's going to show you the usage of a certain drive. And the C drive is going to take a while to, so the C drive is actually going to take a while to build the picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it sit here. You can see it's building the picture as it goes, but sometimes it really takes a while. So I may snip out some of the video until it finishes so that you can see this without having to wait for it. Well, there, it's building pretty fast. And those are all the used sectors and clusters that are on this hard drive. And it's a pretty big hard drive. That's one of the reasons it's taking so long. It's not especially full. It's way less than half full. Okay, and as you can see, I've already snipped out about 15 minutes of this. It's still working. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this now and go on to the next one. So the last one I'm going to show you in this section is called disk usage. And the reason I like this is because you can look at a specific directory and find out what's in it, all files and all subdirectories. So if we say du c:\work, that's actually where I put all of my current projects. So it's going to find quite a bit, but it just gives me a really good idea of what's there. Kind of gives me a summary. It's no details, but a really nice summary. And the reason this would be good for a forensic investigation is you could take a look. If you're looking for sort of a concentration of files or a concentration of subdirectories, this would find it. Okay, so we're going to do 3 more utilities in this little section. First, though, I want to go ahead and encrypt a file using the built-in Windows command prompt utility called Cipher. So I'm gonna encrypt states.txt. So I say Cipher /e, which means encrypt states.txt. Okay, it's done. Okay, so let me get rid of that command prompt. Now from here, I can check out that file, and it will tell me who owns it or who actually went ahead and encrypted it. So that way, if you need to hunt passwords or something like that, this will tell you who did the encryption. Okay, we've talked about handles, and handles represent disk files, memory object, open pipes, network connections. So it represents a lot more than simply open disk files. So there's a utility called handle that will give you a list of all of them. Now, obviously, we can't read this, so I'm going to go ahead and quit that. Let's just go and capture that. O handle list.txt. Going over to O notepad notepad handle list.txt. This will give us a little bit better chance to see what was in it. Okay, lots of information here. Here are some log files that are open. Here's actually a registry entry that was open. Some services. Okay, so it's actually a pretty extensive list of things that are represented by handles. Okay, so this next thing is actually only going to help you as you do your forensics investigations. A lot of times you'll see representations in hex and you need to know the decimal equivalent. A lot of times you'll see stuff in decimal and you need to know the hex equivalent. So there's something called hex. So if we type hex to decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if it doesn't see an X, it assumes it's a decimal number. So it shows you the hex equivalent, or vice versa, hex to decimal. If you say X54A, it'll show you the decimal equivalent of that. So this is really useful when you're doing your forensics investigations, if you need to go back and forth between hex and decimal. And actually, you will have the need for that a lot more than you might think. So we've already taken a look at task list. We've already been able to capture the actual EXEs that are running. But sometimes it's important to know what DLLs are also running, because the EXEs are going to pull in the DLLs. And sometimes that tells a more complete story. So there's a utility called list DLLs. And this is probably going to show us quite a few. I mean, obviously. So let's go ahead and capture that. List DLLs .txt. Still takes a while to run, even though it's capturing to that text file. There are just so many DLLs. I mean, you got to figure most everything pulls in kernel.dll or a sys.dll or so forth. So this is going to be a really long list. Okay. So let's see, notepad list DLLs.txt. This file is actually almost a meg. Okay. So notice it shows you the actual EXE, and the PID, and then it shows you everything that it pulled in. Let me see, I guess I need to center this a little bit better. Okay. Here again, winlogin.exe, and then it shows you all the DLLs that it pulls in. Quite a few, right? Okay, then another one, LSASS. Okay, all the DLLs it pulls in. Service host. Now this is part of DCOM. That's actually really a service. Okay, let me see if I can find something. How about PowerPoint? Let's see. Here's PowerPoint. Let's see what it pulls in. Okay. So it's a really comprehensive and very complete listing, and it may end up helping you track down what is going on in a system. Okay, so let's go back here. PS logged on. Okay, and this should show you just who's logged on to this particular server. And this is my development box. There's nothing special to it. So I'm the only person logged on. Now PS service is going to be another verbose utility, just because there are so many services running on your computer. So here we're going to have to capture this if we want to make any sense of it. PS service.txt. Oh, notepad PS service.txt. Make sure I center this for you. And this is going to enumerate all the services that are running. Adobe. First few things have to do with Adobe. And it actually describes, most everything is going to describe what it does. I'm always suspicious of services that don't have any kind of description, because a lot of times malware and stuff will appear as a service and it won't have a description. So let's see, SQL Server should be here somewhere. Here's SQL Server. I've got SQL Server running, so you can see that. Of course, it has other helper services too. So that's PS Service. Okay, so this next thing is not a utility, but it's still very helpful. There's a file called PS Tools, and this is just an online help, or excuse me, a local help file. So this actually should be able to give you, let's say, PS logged on. So it should give you help about most everything that's in the SysInternals package. Okay, so that might be really useful for you somewhere down the road. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you in this section is going to be a RAM map, and this is really important for forensics investigations. It'll give you a really good idea of where stuff is in RAM. That's taken a minute. Okay, so it gives you a really nice graphical to show you what's going on. And I don't think, yes, you actually can save this. So you can save it, take it back to the lab, and spend some time looking at it. But this is actually a really nice utility. Okay, so let's get back here. So if I had a lot of people logged on or a lot of processes, essentially a lot of your system processes are logged on. So this will show you exactly what's logged on. You notice I'm logged on I'm logged on, but the default app pool is logged on. iUser, that has to do with IIS and so forth. So it's not just people in this case that's logged on. It's actual Windows system processes. So that's what logon sessions is going to show you. Not only just you, but all the processes that are logged in. Okay, NTFS info, and you need to specify a drive. I'll just go ahead and let it show you that it needs some sort of a drive letter. And we'll just say C. Now in C, it's going to give you the information about C, the size, the sectors, the clusters, and so forth. And when we talk about NTFS in week 4 and FAT in week 3, we're going to delve quite a bit deeper into this stuff, but it's nice that you have just a snapshot here of what's in front of you. Okay, so Process Explorer, and this is a graphical utility. It takes a minute to come up because it's querying the system. Okay, so it gives you a pretty nice idea of what's running, where it's coming from, its description, what its memory footprint is, and so forth. This is actually a lot nicer than Task Manager, or more affectionately known as Task Mangler. This is Task Manager I just pulled up. Task Manager is not as complete, doesn't have as much detail, you can see, but Process Explorer is actually much nicer. So I'm going to prefer that when I really need to look at stuff. And the last thing in this section I'm going to show you is Procmon, or Process Manager actually, or Monitor. So this is a little bit different. It gives you a little bit different viewpoint of what's going on in your system. A lot of it's the same information, but you can see, you can find the path, the operation. So that this is just a different kind of snapshot of what's going on in your system. Okay, so before I do the last set of utilities I'm going to show you, I just want to let you know that I've only gone through and highlighted the utilities that I thought were most important for forensic investigations. I do encourage you to go through the entire SysInternals suite because there's actually a lot there that you might find useful. So we've already talked about SIDs, security IDs, but there's a really easy way to get the SID of the person who's logged in. That's with the ps-get-sid utility. So it shows the SID for the current login. Okay, ps-info is going to give you more information. Okay, tells you the uptime and the kernel version and so forth. Just a lot of really interesting information that may or may not have bearing on a case that you're running. So ps-ping is similar to ping. I'm going to say ps-ping, ricklineker.com, and it actually gives you a bit more information than the normal ping and is a little bit more reliable. However, I'm not sure I would install this just to use it. I would just probably tend to use the normal ping. A lot of times you need to find out who owns a particular domain for an investigation. So who is a utility here, and I'll do ricklineker.com and it'll look it up and it'll tell you the registration information. There's my registration information. And if you call those phone numbers, they've been disconnected long ago. Okay, zoom it. I'm only going to show you this. This I find very useful because if you're trying to really hone in on something, this will actually zoom in on something. This is really interesting too when we're looking for hidden data. Sometimes images can have stuff hidden in it. So that's one case in particular when it would really help. Okay, RU. I'm just going to show you RU without. RU won't run without the right parameters, but it actually is a registry reporting device. So I'm going to say RU/H. And by the way, we spend an entire week on the registry, but let's say local H key local machine. So it just kind of gives me the lowdown on the H key local machine. Okay, strings. This is going to find the strings within any file, right, like an exe or whatever. It'll extract all the strings that are used in that file. And you could actually go ahead and pipe this into an external file of some sort, like strings.txt, and just go out there. And this may actually give you a lot of information that you need. Notice, by the way, they tell software engineers never to repeat strings, yet there are quite a few repeated strings. Okay, those aren't very useful. Let's see if we can find some more useful strings. There we go. This is actually fairly useful because you can actually more understand what the program is doing based on all this stuff. The last one I want to show you is TCP view. It's a graphical representation of what's going on in your TCP IP stack. You know, who owns what, who's using what, and so forth, local ports. So it's pretty useful.